Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are, and welcome to the inaugural, see what I did, webinar for 2021, Dalim Tips and Tricks. My name is Mike Moscato, and I'm going to do the webinar this morning. And we're going to go over some of the new features in the high-res viewer in ES6. Now, if you were on the Worldwide Technology meeting last month, you may have seen some of these already. And I think there's a couple of them we may have shown before early last year. But I'm pretty sure if you weren't on Worldwide Technology meeting, there's a lot of stuff you haven't seen before. So let's try to get to it. As always, if you are used to doing our webinars, you know, we always mention this. If you have issues getting things to fit on the screen, you should have that zoom button. I think it's up in the upper right now to get this stuff to fit on screen for you. So what are we going to go over today? Well, like I said, we're going to look at newer features in the high-res viewer. One thing that I really want to stress, and I'm going to review this at the end as well, is if you were to load up a new ES6 today and say, you know, I want to go play with those new features I saw, there's several of them you will not see. And there is a couple of them you have to have certain options enabled in a user profile, and a couple others there are specific edits you have to make. So they're not all just out of the box, you know, and in your face when you load up ES6. Here's what we're going to look at. What is referred to in the UI as split view is, I'm not even sure that's an accurate description. This is the feature that I call multiple file view. It's when you get in the viewer and you can pop up like a grid of 9 or 14 or 16 images at once. Custom proofreading marks. There's a shortcuts menu now, and one thing we want to note here is that that one is user specific, and it's not a global setting. There are several new features you can see when you make notes, copying, pasting, and a more robust variation on that, where you can copy a note to a whole bunch of files at once, stylizing text. And this other thing, custom note status, really, to just read that, it almost doesn't make any sense. When you see it, you'll understand it. And I've saved for last the new options for how you can view spreads. That's an interesting one in that as you work through it, there are different behaviors based on how your pages are oriented in ES, whether they're in a flat plan, they're not in a flat plan, whether they're a multi-page PDF. We'll go over that. So let's jump right into ES6. And we're going to start with the split view. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I think you've probably seen this. We did a demo last year on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I think I got 10 files there. And one thing that I've noticed from playing around with this is it's probably only appropriate, or it makes sense if you've got many pages or images that are very similar. Otherwise, it can look a bit chaotic. And you know, and we know, you know, I can open a bunch of images, but normally I can either view one at a time, or I could just do a compare on a couple of them, right? But if you right-click, and no, I don't want to zoom on it. Open as, let's say open as 2x2. What this is going to do is it's going to start with the first image and then open in this grid the second, third, and fourth image. If I zoom on that image, notice he zooms up. The other guys didn't do anything. They stayed put. That's good. However, you notice this option here called synchronize documents. If you turn that on, as you zoom and pan, every file that you have open is then going to move around. Now, the reason this can be dangerous is because this is working your render servers. And so this is basically rendering 4 files at the same time. And if you have a lot of people working in ES and, let's say we want to close all of those except one. And now let's say we want to do a 3x3. Now I'm opening 9 files at once. And again, if I'm still in synchronize and I zoom on this, I'm rendering all 9 images at once. So you should use this with care. Now, in terms of how you can work with all these images at once and kind of have them make sense, the way I kind of look at this is you're probably trying to pick, 1 or 2 files. So, maybe you go, I don't like that guy. So you can start putting them away and he's no good. And, maybe after you've kind of sorted through them all, you could do what you saw me do earlier. Maybe you say, yeah, he's my guy. So you can just say, close everyone else. And now that's the file that I want to work with. Again, key thing to remember. That synchronized view option. And again, I'm not sure if I made much of a point of this earlier, but you can still pan and zoom one at a time without overstressing your renderers. And the other thing is in terms of the screen real estate, I think generally if you put away your panels, I did a shift tab and then you could actually go to full screen view as well. It's a little easier, especially if you got 4 or 9 images in here to be able to make sense of what's on screen. Now, as I said earlier, some of these features, when you first log in, you won't even see them. So for instance, this guy, if you go to your user profiles, you will find him under dialog engine. And if you scroll all the way over there to the right, it's this guy called split view. But here's another important option here, this thing called maximum number of views. So let's say you have some users who, maybe you don't trust to be able to open 16 images at once, and you want to limit them so that they don't go, crazy, sucking up all your render licenses. So here's another user profile I have, and you'll see that this one is limited to 4 maximum views. So let's get a user, say Marcellus Wallace. Let's log him in. Now he's going to do the exact same thing you just saw me do as my other user. He's going to look at, his pet heron here. He's going to open 10 images up as well. But you'll notice now when he goes to, he only gets a 2x2 block. He can't do the 3x3, 4x4. Now, even though he's limited though, he's not necessarily stuck, oh, I can only see the first one and the next 3 after him. If you decide, oh, I want to see this guy here, I want to put him in this square. Now, this is hard to see. It's kind of subtle, but when I click that image, you can see there's that dark blue square around it. So he's the currently selected slot. So if I now click my guy in the lower left, it loads him into that slot. And so now maybe in the lower right, notice you can still see that light blue line. I'm going to slot this guy in. So even though this guy is only limited to 2x2, you can still move in and out different images. Now there's one other behavior I want to show you, and this is one I never really thought about that much, but it really has to do with the way it loads images in. So this is the last image in my list. So, you know, let's say I was moving back and forth and I just happened to select that guy. I say, yeah, I want to look at that 2x2 grid again. You'll notice you don't get anything because the logic or illogic, however you want to phrase it, of the way this works is it looks at the key file and then goes down the list. Well, since he's the last in the list, it doesn't see anybody else to put into that that little matrix. So you have to be sure you're further up the food chain when you select the file to start with. And then once you're there, if needed, you can slip different images in to work with. Okay, next, let's move on to custom proofreading marks. And we might as well stay here with these files. It's been a feature in ES for quite some time where you had these little proofreading marks here where you can drag them in and out. But, you know, let's say you have, and you'll notice I already have some in here, some common corrections you like to work with. So you can create your own list of custom marks. Let's say I need another one. It's fewer birds. So this is my own list. And let's say I thought, you know, this image needed more contrast. You can just drag these things in. They're just notes at the end of the day. And let's say it needs more contrast and it's too cool. And, you know, let's say I made a couple of these that I realize I never use them anymore, or they're just idiotic, like fewer birds. You can always right click and delete them and get rid of them. This is another feature that is not enabled per default. It's also enabled in your user profile. I should have stayed here earlier and showed you this one as well. Dialog engine can use custom proofreading marks. That's our guy. So if you don't see them, come down here, make sure that's turned on in your user profile. Another thing that I want to show now, though, is I think I mentioned this in my introduction, is that some of these, like the custom proofreading marks, are not global settings. These are per user. So if I come in here now, I'm not Marcellus Wallace anymore. Yeah, we'll just pick a random image. I guess that one's as good as any other. Notice I don't have those marks that he had. I got my own, you know, which is equally, you know, idiotic as, you know, more birds. But the fact is, everybody can have their own custom mark.
We should say that, you know, this is different than you do still have the ability using an XML file to create your own custom proofreading marks that, as you see above.
Yeah, these guys.
So you can still do that. This is separate. And those, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, are global, or you can assign them to groups, can't you, Mike?
Yeah, I think those are global. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they are. So that is custom proofreading marks. And one thing that I've noticed from working with them, and I've already asked Dalim about this, is to me, they're a little large. It seems to me we should have some way of controlling the font size on those, because they can be a bit overbearing, I guess, is how I would.
Especially when they're all caps.
Yeah, well, you know. So let's get on to now kind of the meat of what we're going to go over here now is a lot of the different ways we can work with notes now. And let's see, let's go here. And we're just going to open a whole bunch of images here. I got a bunch of ducks and egrets and all sorts of weird stuff in here. Let's just open, I don't know, maybe it's about 10 images. I don't know, maybe a little more. So first, let's just make a note like we're used to making. I really like this duck. Okay, we've been able to do that for many, many years. Let's say though, I want to stylize this text. Notice if I right click now, I have this option, font. So I want to make it bold. It'd be nice if I could do this all at once, but I can't. But I can go to now font size. You can make it a different size. I want to emphasize how much I really like it. So we'll make that red. And obviously you can do underline, italic. You can basically modify these things any way you want now with, and what we're talking is font size, color, and style. There's no option to choose some sort of custom font, you know, like Helvetica or Times Roman or something like that. But I think this gets you where you want to go now. And again, you can go pretty large. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but you know, again, the point is you have the ability to stylize, colorize your text in a note now. So that is quite a note. Let's say we needed to copy and paste him to another file. Right click, copy selected note, go to another image, paste. So you can copy and paste between different files. In fact, let's do this.
At least on my end, Mike, it's just lagging a little bit behind.
Okay, I'll talk slower. Or I'll move slower, because I have been clicking and clacking pretty fast. I'm going to go back to this 2x2 thing. You can, when you're in this mode, you can paste these things when you're in that multi-file view mode if you need to. But what you've seen me doing so far is I had to go kind of one at a time. I had to paste into this image in the top right. I had to paste into this guy. So if you had a specific note that you knew you wanted to copy and paste to multiple files, wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to do that? So let's show that. Let's go to, well, first let's delete this note that we've got in there right now. Actually, what I'd like to see is a delete all notes at once. That would be handy.
Could be dangerous.
So let's make ourselves a note. Now I'm going to right click on the note, and you'll notice this option here, copy note to. This now gives me a list of every file that's currently open in the viewer. So let's say I needed or I wanted this note on every file. Select all, copy notes to selected documents. If you look at the left-hand side, you'll notice the little note icon suddenly appeared on these guys. And if I view any of those files, the note is now in place on all of them. Now, this is another feature that is not enabled per default. In fact, it takes some under the hood manipulation. Here's what you have to do. You have to go to Symlinks Common, Tomcat 7 bin, and every ES server should have this env.sh file. And what you're going to do is you're going to edit that file, and you have to add this option. And we'll have this, I'll show this in the keynote at the end as well when we just try to remind you of all the stuff that's not out of the box. Once that's in place, you also have to restart Tomcat, and then the copy notes to option will appear for you. Now, here is an important caveat when working with this feature. Let's add another note. I am an egret. So now I want to do the same thing I did before, although it has, what I'm doing is slightly different. Notice I'm not going to click the note. Notice when I click it, it goes kind of gray, right? I'm not going to select it, but when I right click on it, I still get that option. So I say, I'm going to copy it to image 49 and image 50. So everything looks kind of sort of the same as what I did before. But if I go to those two, you're not going to see that note. And you go, wait a minute, I know I did that right. In fact, yeah, I've seen this before too, where it doesn't keep the note. Because what happens, here's what happens. When it's done properly, notice on the top, it sets the file that I'm copying from. It says source document, so it knows where it's grabbing the note from. If you do not click to select the note, when you go to copy note to, there's no source document defined. So in essence, it copies nothing to the target files. So one more time, select copy note to, there's my source. We'll do it to 49 and 50 again. Copy. And this time, we'll see our guy in place. There he is. And there it is. So if someone tries to use this feature, say, you know, they just aren't working, it's almost certain that they're not selecting and right-clicking first. And the problem with this is, even though I didn't select it, when I right-click it, it provides me with those options. So it's very easy to be fooled into thinking you did everything right when it requires you to click it. Okay. Next. Now you've probably noticed something on my notes here that kind of looks a little weird, and that's this thing here. Notice it says to do, and now it says done, fixed, further review. Now, normally when you work in ES, if you go to your preferences, you have this option called create note as checkable, right? That's where it's got that little checkbox. And then you can use your filters to show or hide notes that have been checked off, you know, as in we did them, or not checked, they still need to be handled. But let's say you want to have your own custom statuses. If I write, notice this option says set custom note status to. So you'll notice I have these different statuses here: to do, it's been done, or it's been fixed, further review. And again, these are just arbitrary. These are just some that I put into place. Now, the reason those could be handy, let's say this one has been, and what I'm doing is if I just click through, it'll cycle through. If you hit the shift button, it cycles through backwards, or you right click and choose the status you want. So let's say he's fixed. And let's say that guy is fixed as well. If you go to your notes filters, all those statuses show up. So I can say, show me all of the fixed items in here. Show me all of the to-do things that still have to be done, or, just show me all. So you can have, depending on how you work and what type of approval and correction cycles you deal with, you can program in your own custom statuses that would make sense to your users, and maybe have some specific connection to how your milestones and approvals work. This is another feature that is not shown out of the box. This one takes a little work. So let's look at what's involved in this. You need to go to the paths, symlinks, IO, dialog data server, query data. And when you get there, you have to create this folder. This folder does not exist per default. So you have to make a folder called note status. Inside of it, you create an XML file called status.xml. In fact, this is my file. I'm not sure how easy that is to see because of the colors in it. But this shows, is that all right, Fred? You can make it out? Okay. So this shows those statuses that I have. And let's say we said, you know what, there's one more. We got a new thing we want to do. So let's see how we add another one in. I'm just going to paste that in. And let's say the new status is we don't know what to do. It's called clueless. And let's see, this is basically the translation here. So what's actually going to show up in the UI? I have no idea what to do or what this is, right? So let's save it. Now, this is a feature that does not require a Tomcat restart, but there's still a trick to get it to show up. Because let's say, let's just open that image. Show me custom status. Notice my new one isn't there. What you need to do is you need to either just reload your browser, or you can log out and log in. Either one will work. So now, if I open this guy up, status, I have no idea. And that now should appear in my filters for my statuses right there. So again, with this one, remember when you do a stock ES install, it's not going to show up. You're not going to see it. You have to go through these steps, which again, I'll review at the end. Okay, lastly, we're going to look at spreads. Now, if you saw the Worldwide Technology meeting, some of the videos, I know there was one that Tom did where he came to the spreads and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and went past it because I think he was a bit flummoxed by the way it behaves. So I'm going to try to do the non-flummoxed demonstration of this. Now there's three scenarios to keep in mind because they all behave differently. It'd be nice if they didn't, but they do. So first, let's see how we can view spreads if we're dealing with a single multi-page PDF. Now, first of all, you notice I have it set for the trimmed spread view, right? First page, we know is usually treated as a cover. So if I just go straight to spread view and I use the default setting as automatic, this multi-page PDF shows me spreads. That's good. Now let's say I want to see page 1 as a spread with page 2. All you need to do is click this option here that says 2 pages. Now I get page 1 and 2, page 3 and 4, and I should get the last page back cover with those guys. So with a multi-page PDF, it's basically go automatic to see your normal default view with cover as a solo page. Go to 2 pages to see the cover as a spread. Ignore that guy. That merge thing comes into play on some of these other scenarios. So next, we have pages that are in the flat plan. So I got a 70-page job here. Let's just do pages 1 through 30. Again, we're already in trim spread view. The default setting is automatic. So again, automatic with the flat plan gives us probably what we expect. I think that's the way it used to behave. So I have page 2 and 3, page 4 and 5 as spreads, front and back cover are seen as singles. Now in this, you noticed when we were in the multi-page PDF, we just hit 2 pages and it gave us a spread. This one doesn't do that. Those 2 pages didn't do anything. In this mode, again, pages in a flat plan, you hit merge and 2 pages. The logic behind that, why I have to hit them both, I have no explanation. It would be nice if it behaved exactly the same as the other one does. There's your back cover as well. So second to last page and back cover we'll view as a spread now. If you hit cover, it just goes back to showing the cover as is. But, frankly, that seems kind of silly because you could have just gone back to automatic and you'd get the same thing. So pages in a flat plan. Automatic gives you normal spreads, covers as solos. Go to merge. And it'd also be nice if they stayed open. You can click them both. Merge in 2 pages gives you the front and second page. Next scenario is you got a bunch of pages just kind of floating around, but they're not in a flat plan. They're just hanging around waiting to do something. So what are they going to do? Spread view trimmed, automatic. What do we get? We get nothing. Just got single pages. So they're not a multi-page, they're not a flat plan. So ES is going, I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with these things. All you have to do with this mode is go to merge. You get front, you get cover, and the second page, 3 and 4, so forth. If I click cover, I now get basically what we saw as like the default view when the pages were in the flat plan, right? You get the cover by as lonesome, and everything else, 2, 3, 4, 5, so forth, show as spreads. And again, the odd thing about this mode is when you first go in, the default of automatic Actually gives you nothing. You would look at it and say, hey, I'm in spread viewed. You'd think automatic would do it for me. It won't. First thing you got to do is go to merge to get into the spreads. Now, there's one thing that you haven't seen yet. And to me, it's still, I wish there was a very obvious way to do this from within the viewer, but there's not. And that would be, I want to see my cover and my back page as a spread. With the options that we have in here, when I open all these pages, there's no way to do it. There is a fairly simple workaround for it, though. Take your back page and throw it in the clipboard. Take your front page, throw it in the clipboard. Open them up, go to merge. So this is, from what I've seen, the easiest way to affect that. Throw both of those guys in there and run the merge routine. Now, the reason I did it in the clipboard is that if I just select those two pages from the flat plan, I mean, from the project, I can still get it to view them as a spread, but I get cover on the left, back cover on the right. Another thing that's a bit odd about doing this out of the clipboard is, again, you see I got them both in there. I'm going to select the cover first and then the back cover. Watch what I get now. So it's actually depends on the order in which you select them out of the clipboard, which, I would have never guessed, because now I'm going to click back first, front second, and again, notice they load in differently. So there they are, front on the right, back on the left. That's something I think if it's a feature you use a lot, when you get to ES6, if you consistently have pages in a flat plan or you consistently have a multi-page PDF, I think you'll just play with it a couple times, you get used to it. But if your users have issues, you may have to just go through it with a couple times and have them click this, click that, and eventually they'll see that merge thing will usually do the trick for them.
Yeah, you would think at least from the flat plan, it would just honor it properly and show the back and front cover.
Yeah. So I want to review the things you have to remember to do to get some of these to work. Don't forget that for that split view, it has to be enabled in the user profile. Split view enabled. And again, if you want to limit how many files somebody can work on, make sure you set that guy up.
And that does relate to a question I got, which was whether you can do it at the user level. No, it has to be done at the profile, the user profile.
Yes. Custom proofreading marks as well. Dialog engine, make sure he's enabled. And these are per user. So if somebody says, hey, Bob has all these things and I don't, it's because he has to set his own up. Now, frankly, I think there should be an option so that, if there was a whole bunch of standard ones that you worked with, that they could be copied or transferred from user to user, but I'm not aware of such a feature.
I think Dalim would say to do it the XML way.
Yeah.
Make your own custom with an icon.
This is to do the copy notes to feature, right? You have to edit env.sh file with this line that you see at the bottom, and you do have to restart Tomcat to do that. And the last one was this custom note status. Have to create that folder inside of that path. The XML file has to be called status.xml, and this is the form. There has to be a default status line too. That's apparently, if that one's not in there, it doesn't know what to load when you first create a note. And this one does not require a Tomcat restart. All it needs is, if you're actually working when you do it, reload the browser or log out, log in.
And that's one of the questions as well, is how would you handle a different language?
Yeah, you can see the localization option in here. So this is my French, my English. I think during the Worldwide Technology meeting, I think they had 3 or 4 languages defined down here. And then obviously it keys off of the language associated with the user who's logged in. And the default, I'm pretty sure, is English. So if I was set to Swedish, but there was not a Swedish option in here, it'll default to the English. And that's all we have for today. Are there any more questions, Fred?
The only other one was, can you paste notes into different documents? And I think the answer to that is no, it's got to be in the same session. So you can't close your dialogue session, open up a new file, and paste into that file. It lives in the clipboard basically during this one dialogue session.
That's an interesting question, though. Let's do it real quick. It'll only take a second.
Let's see if you prove me wrong.
You never know. Copy selected note. I don't think it'll work either, but it's worth a try. Paste note. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does. Wow.
Of course,
Okay.
it remains to be seen how long it'll be there. And there's also this other option I didn't even mention. I think this exists in ES5, is copy note text to clipboard. So if I just go to any other app, that's just my, you can copy paste it into other applications if you need to. Maybe you needed to paste it into an email or something like that.
That's useful for if you have a text correction you have to make to be able to copy and paste it.
Yep.
All right, and that's all we have.
So I think most people on here know that we do these webinars 3rd Wednesday of every month. So we'll see you in February. Not sure what the topic is yet, but we're always looking for topics. So, if there's something that you're curious about or puzzled about or a new feature you've heard about, drop us a note. We'd be happy to do webinars on demand.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Great. Thanks a lot. That was a good one.
Okay. Thank you.